Hi, I'm Tricia Morris. Welcome to class. I am very excited about this awesome project we're going to do together today. This one is called the Accordion Hinge album, and we'll be using a collection. It's a page kit from Club Scrap called Riverbend. The coolest part about this is once you master the project, you can literally make this with any Club Scrap page kit because those page kits contain the precise amount of paper required, plenty of cut aparts to decorate your book, as well as other ribbon and embellishments to finish it off in beautiful ways. So you can incorporate your own level of creativity into the project once you get the mechanics of the book figured out, and it's not that hard. Okay, so I've got my supplies here. I've got my paper trimmer. As with most of our projects, Club Scrap's project here starts out with organizing and then trimming our paper. So I just ask your patience with me while we do that and walk through that process before we actually get to the book assembly. And by doing it that way, I'm really trying to empower you so that you can make these projects on your own without me doing a lot of class prep for you. You are able to transform any paper you have in your stash really into this project. So let's go ahead and get started. To review, this is the beautiful book that we're going to be making. You can see it has some nice heft to it. It's got the black matte board covers and a whole bunch of pages inside measuring 5x7. So you have a lot of room to put tons of standard 4x6 photos, which is pretty cool. And this super clever accordion spine. So we'll learn how to make all of this together. You do need some basic equipment in addition to the kit itself, which I'm just going to set aside for now. You'll want to have a good trimmer, especially because we will be trimming that heavier mat board. And I'm also using my clever accordion pocket file. So this has 4 pockets. I use this for everything from card making to making scrapbook pages with our monthly kits. So for example, every month we'll make a set of 12 cards. So as we trim all the papers, all of the materials go into one of these 3 pockets, and our scraps go into the 4th pocket to be saved in case we decide to use them. And then when we make our pages, I cut everything in advance for 8 pages, and then all those pieces are sorted into these pockets. I actually have a kit that help you make this accordion pocket file if you're interested. It's just a great way to stay organized, especially if the space around you is limited. And this lip here is designed to just fit under the base of your trimmer. And then I got a couple of extra hook and loop dots just for some extra safety to make sure this stays vertical, even if it happens to fall off the end of your table or something tragic like that. So again, I've got this trimmer here, and I've got a copy of the instructions. This comes with the purchase of the class along kit. And I'm going to start out by just setting aside all of the photo mats and other embellishments. You can see here, the kit came with tons of these cute little charms and swivels and all kinds of great stuff. And I'm also going to set aside the glue. This is a needle-tipped glue applicator, and the intent here is for you to fill it with our bookbinding glue, and it's a great applicator for getting the job done here with these handmade books of ours. Okay, so I have all of the papers that came in the kit here. I'm going to start out with 2 dark green planes. So let's just go ahead and leaf through the papers. I like to hold them vertically while I'm sorting so that I can see what's in there. I'm going to take those 2 dark green papers. You can see right away they have a beautiful like a burlap type texture, and I'm going to put these texture side down on my trimmer base. Next, I'm going to try to find a light green here. There should be 2 of each color provided, and I'm only going to take the one. So this is beautiful. You can hear the weight of this paper. That's the light green. Next, I'll take, the other light green, and then 2 of the teal. You'll notice it's the darker of the 2 shades of blue. And then 2 aqua. So that would be this lighter color here, the aqua. And then 1 tent print, and you'll be able to identify that right away by the tent in the lower right corner. And 1 bird print. And put those face down, as you can see. Next, I'm going to take the other tent print, the other bird print, putting those face down. We'll see how we're doing on time. I may have you trim these cut aparts independently of me, but maybe not. We'll take the one that says today's good mood is brought to you by the lake. And then this other one with the stripes on it. And last but not least, I'm using this heavy substrate, our black matte board. You'll notice that the one side of this is finished and the other is not. So you won't see really either side of it, but I just wanted to let you know that that's how that comes. All right, so I'm flipping everything back over to that green paper that's on the top. And I'm gonna start by following these written instructions. And you will notice that there is a vertical line on your instructions, or this line in this case is vertical. It's an arrow pointing from the top to bottom. And that is referencing the grain direction of your paper. So I'm gonna take my first sheet of dark green, I'm gonna hold it by the edge and wiggle that paper. We always wanna try to fold our paper in cooperation with the grain. So if I were to push on this, feels pretty good. Now I'm gonna try rotating this paper one turn, and if I push on it, it gives me a lot more resistance. But from this other end, it flops really easily. So I wanna make sure that this paper goes in my trimmer so it flops in the direction of that arrow on your instructions. So it's flopping easily top to bottom. Then I get to take the second green sheet and check that grain direction too. And I'm gonna drop it in my trimmer again so it flops easily top to bottom. We're gonna trim these at the same time. So I'll unlock my blade. There's a little knob right here that locks the blade when it's not in use. So I'll release that, bring it all the way up. And I'm just gonna find a nice easy number, 7. If you're new to the trimmer, just be aware that 7 centimeters is here, 7 inches is here. And we're gonna work with inches for, as long as I can see into the future. All right, so we're gonna put 7 inches here. Make sure you stabilize firmly on this clear bar. If you fail to do that, the paper could move when that blade comes down. Now we're gonna rotate this base paper here so it's horizontal, and we'll trim it at 10 inches. Before I can file this away, I wanna score this paper a little bit later, so I'm just gonna set these papers aside, and then the little piece that fell off the end, we're gonna put that in pocket D. Next, the 2 pieces that fall off the end, these are still 12 inches long, they're 5 by 12. I'm gonna trim this at 9. And these pieces end up being the spine of the book and need to be scored. So I'm gonna set them aside to be scored. And then again, the little rectangles that fell off the end, pocket D. Now I'm gonna take this light green color, and I had to repeat this whole process one more time with this color. So again, I'm checking the grain. This is really stiff. This is really bendy, and I want it bending easily from the top of the bottom to the bottom of my trimmer. So trim at 7 again, and get really used to these measurements. Rotate and cut at 10. That gives us another page for our book. So I'm gonna set it aside to be scored, and then the little piece into pocket D or pile D. If you don't have the accordion pocket file, no worries. Just maintain 4 piles so we can stay organized a little more easily. The next 5 by 12 strip will just trim at 9. This needs to be scored, so I'll set that aside. This little end cut, pocket D. Now we're gonna take the next green. We're just gonna cut this one a little bit differently, but still the grain needs to dip easily top to bottom. And I will trim this again at 7. Rotate. And this time I want you to cut first at 11 and then 10. This creates another page that needs to be scored, so I'll set it aside. Then you've got your 2 little strips here. Those serve an important purpose. I'm gonna put those in pocket B. B as in boy. And then this piece we can use at our discretion. So again, I'm gonna put that in pocket D. And when I do so, I'm gonna do it kind of at an angle. So I don't try to jam it into a 12-inch wide pocket. The paper is 12 inches wide. Okay, now I get to do this with this gorgeous teal paper. You have to admit, this paper is just stunning. I want the paper dipping easily from top to bottom. And the same for the second sheet. We're gonna do both of these at the same time, the same way. So these are pretty easy trimming instructions, but we'll again go at 7. Again, making sure you stabilize, especially when you're trimming 2 sheets at a time. And then rotate. And we'll make those little strips. So we'll trim once again at 11 and 10. 2 pieces to be scored. Those get set aside, and this strips here will join their friends in pocket B. This can go D for use at your discretion. And we get to do this now with our aqua. Okay, back again at 7 inches. rotate and trim at 11 and 10. Set aside to be scored. Pocket B with more friends, and pocket D for more fun stuff to play with later. And now we have to do this with our print. Now, here's the thing about the print. We also need to make sure it's dipping easily in the direction of the fold. Okay, so it's dipping easily top to bottom, which in this case works out great. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this at 7. And then when I rotate, I think I'm gonna rotate so that the tent is on the left and just trim at 11 and 10. Now the reason I did this is that this is gonna be folded in half to become a page, and that way I don't lose the tent by trimming the paper off this end, okay? So I got this 7 by 10 piece, gets to be a page, and that's gonna be scored. Now I have 2 more little bands here. This I can use later if I want. And then we're gonna check the grain on our print here. I think it wants to go this way. And that's gonna give me a sideways bird. That's okay, maybe we'll do it this way. I'm gonna do it upside down so the bird comes off the end. So I'm gonna trim at 7 with it upside down. Now rotate and trim at 11 and 10. So when this becomes a page, it'll look like that. Perfect, that's fine. I've got 2 little strips to go in pocket B, and then I can use my really cool area of the bird print later on. So sometimes it is just nice to know where you're headed, and that's why I try to label the roll of the piece you're trimming so you can make adjustments according to the artwork on the print. Or you could just, find 2 more sheets of plain paper as well. So now I've got all my pages and my spine kind of still set aside. We have a little bit more trimming to do. We have this other page, and I have it pictured in the instructions. If you are using this particular kit, I'm going to have the top of the print on the right. The tent should be in the lower left corner, and we're going to trim at kind of an odd measurement, 7 1/8. 7 1/8. So 7 is right here. 7 1/4 is here. 7 1/8 is in between those 2 numbers. Okay, so I'm going to find 7, and I'm going to go one mark. That medium-sized mark in between 7 and 7 1/4 is 7 1/8. Now rotate, so it's horizontal. The tent will be on your right at this time. We're going to trim at 7 and 5. So what we're doing is taking the middle out of this piece. Let me show you what that looked like. Okay, so this can be the outside back cover, the outside front cover, and then something for pocket D. So let's take this little piece. I'm gonna put it in pocket D. These 2 pieces I'm gonna put in pocket C. This long piece is a leftover piece I can add to D with my other ones. And now I'm gonna take the piece that has the bird on it, and we're gonna put that in the upper left corner. This time we're trimming at 6 3/4. Rotate, and I'm going to cut now at 7 1/4. And 4 3/4. Now I just kind of did the same thing. I took the middle out of the print. The 2 larger pieces we're going to add to pocket C. This will go in D along with the other long strips. We have a lot you can use at your discretion, which is kind of cool. Now with these cut aparts, we always have you do the final finishing trim on these. That's why we have those little guide marks in the corners. So basically what that means is just remove the paper from the outside edges according to those guide marks. So I line up that mark with the corner of my blade on my trimmer base. And then you just keep rotating until all those corners are taken off. And this one I can look at the number 12 over here. A nice cut, and you'll have these little scraps you can throw away. And now when we start to trim these strips out, I like to do it where the skinniest strip is on the far right. So I'll start at 11, and then 10, 9, 7 1/2, 6, and 3.5. Now you might be thinking, Tricia, this stuff is really huge. These are 12-inch strips. The book is only 5 by 7. What's cool about this is when Jacqueline designs these elements, our amazing designer, Jacqueline Carney, when she designs them, she does it so that they adapt to a smaller size quite readily. So that's all intentional. So you can see we have all these wonderful strips. Notice there's nothing that will be lost if this is trimmed to 7 inches tall, which is probably what you'll do. And then you've got some nice versatility here with these elements. I'm just going to set these aside. You could put them in the D pocket if you like. Let's take this journaling prompt and put it to the right, and then we'll cut at 8.5 and 4.25. And the planning here was that we have these 2 cute little wooden signs. And if you want to, you can add this artwork to the signs to be used later. If you don't want to use it in your book, you don't have to, but you can. And then here we have a little journaling prompt. Now on the other sheet here, we get to do the same exact thing. So I'm going to place this in my trimmer and once again, remove that outer perimeter according to the guidelines by looking at the edge of my trimming blade here. And that way, you know, these cut aparts are so handy for helping you finish those, you know, and embellish your pages of this book. And again, even though they are originally designed to make 12-inch pages, it's really going to help you finish up your book in a beautiful way. Once again, getting rid of those scrappies. And now I can trim off the ends here. So make sure your little stripes are on the right, and we'll start at 11.25. And then 10.5, 7.5, 4, and then you rotate. Now notice I'll let those pieces just pile up. That's all on purpose. So now we're going to go horizontally at 10, assuming the river is my happy place, should be on your right. So 10, 8.5, and 6. All right, we'll just stack up these little embellishments, these little tags and things, set them aside. Now here, if you happen to have like a circle cutter or something, otherwise go in at 8.5. You can use scissors or like a die cut of some kind to remove the circles. Set those aside. Make sure Lake Vibes is on your right. We'll trim at 10 and 8. These are designed for you to be able to cut with scissors, and you'll see how I use them. Our designer added a little shadow line to help you cut to make them look kind of like a nice sticker. And then we got some little journaling prompts along with some decorative border strips here. And I'll just add those to my pile of decor, which is all set to go. The last thing we're going to trim together now is the mat board. Now, if you were making this book, and you're gonna want this guy on the front matted with some more mat board, which I think looks amazing, make the first cut with me. If you're not gonna use this, like let's say for example, you're gonna make this style book with a different collection and you don't wanna use mat board at that size, excuse me, do not make the first cut with me, okay? So if you wanna do it exactly like this, follow this cut with me, otherwise just pause and do the next cut with me. So only if you're going to make the mat board embellishment, the first cut's at 11. Otherwise, just hold, okay? When you do trim, though, make sure you're really pushing hard. I recommend standing up while you're doing this. Okay, you heard it, right? That's some work. Now, everybody, no matter what book you're making, let's trim at 7.25. 7.25. Again, stabilize firmly. Okay, now rotate. Now, if you don't have a trimmer that can perform this task, you'll need to use a craft knife, a cutting mat, maybe a utility knife, and just make repetitive passes to achieve these cuts. Okay, the first cut here on this horizontal now after rotating is at 10.25. Piece is a little shorter now, so it'll be easier. 10.25. Firmly stabilize. Okay, then 5 1/8. So you're gonna find halfway between 5 and 5.25. That's your 5 1/8. Stabilize firmly again. And that gives me 2 pieces, the same size. to act as my book cover. Now you'll have a little scrap here, so you could make a little mini book with this if you like. And then this is where I'm going to trim the piece required to mat the River Life cut apart. So again, only if you're making this particular book, otherwise you could use the mat board for something else. I'm going to trim here at 5 1/4. And then that creates another scrap, plus you have this guy. So all these can be set aside. And if I just check my little decorative pile here, I can find my River Life, and you see that it just nests perfectly onto there for a nice, sturdy, cool cover. Okay, I'll set that aside. I think now is a good time to swap out our trimmer for our score pal so we can prep these pages for the book. Always be mindful that your trimmer is holding up your accordion pocket file, so you want to make sure that you support it, especially if it's at the edge of a table or something. Now I'll take my score pal here. If you don't have a score pal, what you'll want to do, at least for these pages, is fold them in half so that you know where the center fold is. Otherwise, I'm going to place the page into my score pal so it's horizontal when I do so. You'll see 10 here, 7 here, and I want to score at 5. And I'm going to score pretty gently on those prints. So again, the paper right side up, score at 5 on both of those. Now this next paper is not as heavy as some of the others, so when you score this, don't give it too much pressure. You can always make a second pass. Once again, scoring horizontally at 5 with moderate pressure. This is slightly heavier in feel, so I'm going to give it a little bit more elbow grease. Again, scoring at 5. Notice I'm holding my scoring tool. This is a metal tip stylus. I'm holding it like a pencil rather than the overhanded hold because I feel like I have more control when I'm holding it like this. Now we're getting into this super heavy paper. This is really heavy. So I'm going to have to give it quite a bit of elbow grease. And if you don't have a lot of hand strength, consider a second pass. Now you can see I almost put this smaller piece in there. Don't score that like this. Let's score all the larger ones, all those 7 by 10s. Here I've got 2 more smaller pieces. Set those aside for now. A little lighter on this one again, so I'm just going to go moderate pressure. And the last one. This is texture side up, by the way. If you're scoring a standard card and your paper has a print or a texture, typically it will be scored on with the texture side up in this particular score pal. With all these pages scored, it's an option. You can put them in Pocket B with those strips because we'll be using those a little bit later. And then I'm going to have you take these narrow strips here, and we have some very special scoring instructions that do involve eighths. One thing I like about the Score Pal eighths unit is that there is a ridge every 1/8 inch. Super handy. The original of this did not have that. And I do use the eighths all the time. So we're going to start out at 1 1/8. So you find the 1, here's 1 1/4. The 1/8 is halfway between that. 1 1/8. 3 3/8 is next. So 3, you just go 1, 2, 3 notches to the right. That's 3 3/8. 5 5/8. So here's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's halfway between 5 1/2 and 5 3/4. And then 7 7/8. I'm just going to tell you it's halfway between 7 3/4 and 8. So now we have these score lines spread across our paper pretty evenly from this perspective. Now I want you to take the paper and flip it so that the bottom goes up to the top. Now if you feel you've got these raised score lines, that's what we want. And we're going to score again at other measurements. So we're going to score at 2 1/4, 4 1/2, and 6 3/4. Now, if you got all those measurements correct, you'll notice that you have just very equal spacing across this piece. Okay, let's repeat that with the second sheet of green. And again, the paper is right side up in my score pal for this phase. We'll start out at 1 1/8, 3 3/8, 5 5/8, 7 7/8. That's kind of fun. Okay, we're flipping bottom to top. 2 1/4, 4 1/2, 6 3/4. Okay, again, we have a row of alternating indentations and ridges that are evenly spaced. Finally, we're going to do that with the last piece, and this is really heavy stuff, so just be aware of that. 1 1/8, add your elbow grease. 3 3/8, 5 5/8, 7 7/8. Flip bottom to top. The purpose of this flip is to help us later on with an accordion fold. It's going to be awesome. Then we go 2 1/4, 4 1/2, 6 3/4. Now, if you're not getting good indentations and good raised little areas here, consider just making a second pass. This is extremely heavy paper. In this particular kit, if you're not working with this kit, you're going to need to be aware of that heaviness or thickness of the paper as you work. That's the end of the scoring. Now this would go into, let's just say you're doing only the trimming phase. You could put this all in pocket A, and that's everything you need, all organized by step, by category or phase of completion to really help you stay organized now that all the pieces are trimmed. And if you needed to walk away right now, you could. You just put everything maybe in a bag. You can still use your accordion pocket file for other projects, but sometimes it's easy to forget about this project after you've done this prep work. So let's just do this together now. Or maybe you're watching through once. Like I do recommend that too. Like watch the book get made, and then when you go to make it, you will know all the possible pitfalls and everything will work beautifully. We need to make our accordion spine, and we're going to use these 3 pieces to do that. So first rule of thumb here is I want you to fold on every score line and follow the direction the score line gives you. So I'm turning my paper so I can see a bump of my score line. This was a raised surface on this side. And what I want to do is bury that score line inside the fold. And then here is my next bump, so it's going to go the opposite way. And you'll find that this would be called like an accordion fold or a fan fold. And because we did such precise work, you can see this creates just a gorgeous accordion folded piece. If you have a bone folder, you can go ahead and solidify those folds. I like doing it just like in a stack like this. And you can see it gives me a really nice, perfect fan fold. I'm a fan of that. Okay, now here's the bump. So that goes on the inside of the fold. So I always tell people, and you've probably heard me say this before, bury the bump of the score line inside the fold. So if you ever are in doubt, just remember, bury the bump, and then you'll know that the bump goes on the inside. I once had a student tell me they remember it, that they think that the raised score line looks like a little worm, and worms live under the ground. Whatever works for you, okay? So again, even with this really heavy paper, 2 things are working in our favor. Number 1 is we scored this so that we would be folding with the grain, or we trimmed the paper so we'd be with the grain, and we are following the best principles by burying the bumps of those score lines. So instead of just scoring in one way each time, I had you do half the scores with the paper facing this way and the other half the other way. And that's what produces this gorgeous, perfect fan folded accordion. Okay, now what we need to do is create a really long piece of paper. And I want the green in the middle the light green in the middle and then the dark green on the outside. So what I'm going to do is position this dark green so that a free edge is facing up, and then this would be called like a valley fold, right? Then this, the first fold here, is a mountain, and that's going to end up bonding with it's going to go down into the valley of the dark green, and that way it's going to continue the accordion. Now the same thing's going to happen here. So I'm going to turn this one around. In my case, this is the smooth side facing up, and then that's going to nest together like this to make one long piece, okay? An easy way to adhere these end to end, again, is with that bookbinding glue in the needle tip applicator. That's how I'm gonna do it. So I'm taking this dark green piece and isolating that last little valley fold here, and I'm just going to apply a squiggle of this bookbinding glue. And then I'm coming in with the free edge now of my light green. This is the mountain fold here. And I'm just gonna nest those together and then just give it a little pressure. Now those two folds are bonded together, lengthening my accordion. I'm going to do the same thing here, so this gets bonded, right? So I think I'll do it the same way. Maybe I can just turn this whole thing around. So it's the same motion. I'm going to isolate and apply glue to this, the end of my green, dark green, with the free edge. Here's my valley. Now here's my first mountain fold on the light green. Drop it down on there, and then I can just line it up. And now I've extended my accordion to be the exact number of mountain folds required to install all the pages of the book. How cool is that? I'm going to set this aside for now. And we'll take out everything from pocket B. That includes our pages and our binding strips. How do you feel about using a craft knife? If you don't have confidence in this, I can just tell you that practice makes perfect with the use of a craft knife, maybe along with a few tips. I know some of you just say it's not for you, but for this, it's kind of a necessary little evil, okay? I'm also using our grid rulers, and you could get away with a 2x8 just fine, or you can use a 3x14 ruler. Either way, each ruler will be long enough to work with this, and each ruler has a 0 center. So I'm just going to take, maybe I'll start it with a lighter color page, just so you can see. I'm going to take this page and place it horizontally on my cutting mat. And then I'm going to find the middle of my page. So that would give me a reading of 3.5 inches here and 3.5 inches here. And I'm going to put that ruler right on the bump of my score line. So maybe if I even just put my knife on it, I can bring the ruler right up to the knife, and that way I know I'm right where I need to be. Now the goal here is to put a slot into this paper from the 2.5 inch mark here to the 2.5 inch mark here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and show you what I mean. And when you do this, I want you to hold your craft knife like a pencil, okay? So I'm starting at 2.5 here, pushing firmly while I pull the knife toward me in a downward motion, okay? Pushing firmly left, pushing firmly right, depending on what hand is your dominant hand, along the fold or the score line of this to create a slot. Now this slot is 5 inches long in the center of this page, leaving an inch up here and an inch down here. And then when you fold that page, you've got that little slot in there. That's what's going to help hold this book together. Now let me show you another way you can do this. I'm going to take the next page, and instead of, let's just say, another way I can use, I have a grid on my cutting mat too. I can line this up with the grid. If you don't feel comfortable with finding the center, you could start your ruler at the 1 inch mark up here and just cut from the 1st inch to the 6th inch. So inch number 1 down to inch number 6. That's another way you get the same exact result. So you're getting a slit in the page with 1 inch connected on either end. And again, these pages get folded in half. If you're having trouble seeing the fold, you could fold the page ahead of time. I like to go with the 0 center for some reason. It's pretty easy to get that measurement 3.5 from the bottom. 3.5 is my reading, and my 0 is in the center. Now, if you're not finding that, maybe it just means that you're looking at the wrong side of the ruler. The other side just measures from 0 to 8. There we go. I got my slot. And just work your way through. So again, I'm lining up my score with the line on my cutting mat. 2.5. Down to 2.5. Now with these heavier papers too, you really got to give it a little pressure, okay? I love working with the grids because it really helps me maintain a level line from top to bottom. The grid on my ruler and the grid on my paper, you know, on my cutting mat, it all helps. You can see again, I didn't fold this, but I will. Let's just do it in batches, right? Working efficiently. I'm burying the bump, the remaining bump of the fold. And then as you're working too, you can think about like, how do you want to put these pages in order? Like, do you want to have a certain color arrangement? And because you get to decide all of that, I will show you what I did, but you can do whatever you like. And you just keep continuing on, adding these slits to your pages. 3.5. So I'm going from 2.5 to 2.5. Nice. I've done many iterations of this book. I have another one that makes a smaller little accordion book, but I really love these larger sizes, and I love the mat board cover and what it adds to this. It gives it a little bit more strength and stability. It just feels so nice in the hand. I think you're gonna love that mat board, and the fact that you can trim something that heavy with that trimmer that I use, I think is gonna really be a nice material to work with. And one last piece here. Again, because of the grain. Now your grain might be a little different than mine. It just all depends on how they loaded the printer. And so don't trust what you see, trust what you feel as you're trimming with the grain. 2.5 down to 2.5. Okay, I hope that all made sense to you. And now we have a lot of our prep work done. So the rest of this is just some nice, easy assembly. I will take that. And now we have our pages prepped, and we should probably fold them, situate them all so that the fold is facing. Okay. For the order, I did dark green on the outside. Then I did light green coming in from either side. Then I did a print. And then I did a teal. And I did the 2 light blue on the inside. So I'll review that. Dark green, light green, print, teal, aqua, aqua, teal, print, light green, dark green. So I worked from the outside to the inside, going darker to brighter. Do you have to do it that way? No. Do it however you want, okay? Be aware if there's like a top to both of the pieces you're working with, like that's not the case here. Only the tent gives me an orientation, okay? So now I have my pages ready to go, and I have my accordion ready to go. And this is the fun part. This is the part where we allow this to literally bind our book. I think I'm gonna work with it in this direction just to make it a little easier to maneuver. And I'm gonna isolate what I would call the first mountain fold. So this is not a mountain, that's just a free edge right here. Then we have a valley. Then we have our first mountain pleat. So the pleat is actually it's a folded edge with 2 pieces of paper coming together to form a pleat. I'm gonna take my first designated page and I'm gonna thread the pleat onto the page through that hole. So the height of the pleat is the height of the slit that we made earlier. And you see how that just comes right in there? And it fits. How cool is that? Now I'm going to isolate the second pleat. And I bet you can guess what I'm going to do next. I'm going to take this page and thread the pleat through the slit. Now, if you didn't make your slits the right measurement, this is where you're going to find out it won't fit. Okay, so just be aware of that. You may have to make an adjustment. I would be cautious about using text weight paper for this. It tends to require just some strength here of the paper, so a good cardstock works really nice. I've got my beautiful teal. Just threading it on. Mountain fold by mountain fold. Isn't that great? No stitching required. Now we're going to do something to help these pleats stay in place, so don't worry about everything staying connected at this point. that in. Lots of pages here to decorate. Lots of real estate. That D pocket where it has all the other decorative elements is going to help, like with when you have white on, you know, like the plain side of a print. That'll help fix that with some color. And you can see I got my last mountain pleat and I have my last page. How perfect is that? Okay, so now I have what is known in the bookmaking world as a book block. A book block is a set of pages that get installed between two covers, and that's what we've just created. How cool is that? Next, we have these, what I would call binding strips. We won't be using all of them, but we will be using most of them. And that green paper is really super heavy, but I thought it would be nice to have some rounded corners here. So take your corner chomper if you happen to have one. If you don't, you can use just your regular corner rounder. I like to use the 1/2" setting on these, but again, you could use just a standard corner punch if you happen to have one. Now I'm gonna do 2 at a time here. And I'm just adding that rounded edge on one short end on each side. So this is squared and then this side is rounded. So now I can take probably all 4 of these prints. It's lighter weight, I think, than that green is really heavy. Just gonna put them all in here. Gotta have the hand strength. If you don't, just do it 1 or 2 at a time. I'll do all of these aqua. And then I'll do maybe 2 of these teal at a time. These are pretty heavy. I love my little corner chopper. Okay, so now I have all of these color choices. And it doesn't really matter what you use to bind these papers into the book. I'm just gonna start, and I like to use contrasting colors. So let's just say I'm gonna go with this aqua, and I'm gonna open to the very first page, which is that dark green. And I'm gonna thread that rounded end into the pleat until it comes out to the other side. And then you have this look going on. So this is the binding strip that holds the pleat and the page onto the pleat. Isn't that cool? Now I'm going to go to the back of the book and I'm going to take another aqua and install that there. And away it goes. Now, if you're having trouble getting that threaded in, you could always shave a little off the straight edge with your trimmer. I've had it happen with other papers. It just kind of depends on the accuracy of your trimming and, you know, all kinds of factors. Let's see here. I'm going to use this teal color. And if you want it to blend more, you know, you can do that. Make sure it's threaded all the way on and look at how it just slides right in. I'm going to go to the other light green page and then use the teal once again. It's so much fun. I love this structure. Karen and I were talking the other day about it, and we're like, oh, it's one of my favorite books. Now we are at the print here. Maybe I'll use aqua again, since I know I have 2 aqua pages to fill in the middle. I want to make sure I have other colors available for that. And there we go. And I go to the other print. And I'll use the other remaining aqua. Sometimes it'll start pointing down, so when you see it come out the other side, you might have to pull it up a little bit. Worst case, grab a tweezers or something and use that to help you pull it through. Or again, you can always trim a little off to make it slightly more narrow. And you'll find that the juncture points too of where you nested those 2 accordion pieces can also be a little bit tough. There, I got it. Okay. Here we have the teal, so I'm going to use the light green This is heavy, a little more bulky. Find the other teal, the other light green. And then in the middle, I'm going to use teal. Now, a word about finishing these. I had a girlfriend who made a whole bunch of these books. She really loaded them with so many pictures that it got real bulky and just unruly. Okay, so just remember that it will hold quite a few pictures, but don't go crazy, okay? You want to make sure that you can still, that it doesn't start expanding outward like this. It will still hold a lot of embellishments and a lot of pictures, but just be mindful that it does have its limits, okay? The structure isn't designed for hundreds of photos. All right, so now my book is really getting there, isn't it? I'm going to take these extra flaps here and re-enter with the bookbinding glue here and just glue those down. I love this little dispenser because it really gives me the best value on my glue. It goes a long way, and I can just keep recycling it and refilling it from my 2-ounce bottle. So that's just tacking that down from each side. Okay, now we can enter with the covers. These are the matte board covers, and this is going to give this book a nice solid heft. It's going to really protect the covers, and the way I've measured the book is to have 1/8 of an inch reveal on the left and right edges, the top and bottom rather of the book, and then be in alignment with the spine piece with a little bit of 1/8 of an inch reveal. So if I show you on the inside here, it's going to look like that. The way I'm going to apply the glue is, because I have a little reveal on the board, I'm going to apply the glue to my paper. So this is one of the covers. If you wanted to, you could use a brush, but it's really not absolutely necessary. Just make sure you get to those edges of the perimeter for sure, so you make good contact there. All right, so now I'm going to bring this to my cover. I did my pre-alignment check. Just now make sure I'm centered left, right, or top, bottom, and edge. And that should... This mat board has a right side and a wrong side. I see I used the wrong side on the outside. Doesn't matter because we're going to cover it anyway. Okay, so once again, now I'm flipping over to the back, and I'll add my bookbinding glue to this. I do appreciate that I can pre-record these workshops because I just never really, with a project of this, substantial, I never really know exactly how long it's going to take. So if I need to in editing, I can cut repetitive tasks if necessary so that I can really touch on the more important parts of assembly rather than just running out of time at the end and you not having the information you need. So thank you for your patience with my pre-recorded videos. I like to make sure they're nice and professional and can be used well into the future without, a lot of I love the live interaction too. And I get to do that when we're just chatting in the messages, but yet future viewers don't have to deal with the chat that's happening, right? Okay, so now my book has covers. How cool is that? And pages. This would be a great time to check any page that has a right side or a wrong side, because now we're about to assign the front of the book. If it didn't have a print in here, it wouldn't matter. We could just have it any old way, but the print gives it its direction. I'm going to reach into the C pocket and pull out those panels that we created earlier. And I'm going to put the area of the print that has the landscape and the trees on it on my front cover. And once again, I will use my bookbinding glue. And this is just going to give it a really nice, sturdy adhesion. And if you've ever wanted to undo something you've used bookbinding glue on, you'll know it's not really possible. So once this is on and it cures, you're golden forever. Okay, so there's my front cover. And the reason I didn't use the tent, which you could, I used that on the back cover because I'm going to cover the front cover with that other embellishment here. So tent goes on the back. Real quick, add my glue to this. Get that perimeter. It's pretty much how I always do it. And then I do some little squiggles, a few columns of those, and making sure I maintain right side up here. This is where it really gets assigned. So nice. Beautiful. Okay, then we have the bird. And if we want, I have this all trimmed out here. You'll notice these pages are kind of funny. You have to kind of teach them what they're going to do. I'll add my inside cover. Now this you could use your just regular ATG, and I always say ATG, but adhesive transfer gun tape. I can tell I need to reload my glue here, which I do go through a lot of it because I use it on everything. Also works great for, applying embellishments like metal to paper, wood to paper, paper to paper, obviously. I've been using this glue formula for more than 20 years. Okay, so this is my back cover. And again, it doesn't have to be, but I'm choosing it to have a nice double thickness of paper on these covers. Center that on there, and you'll know all that math has been done for you so that if you trim to my dimensions, that everything fits perfectly. Oh yeah, and these were extra, didn't need those. Okay, then I'm going to show you how to make this fun little embellishment of ribbon on here. I love this little step. Once again, using the bookbinding glue, I will center this on the mat board that we trimmed. And that's just more of a kit specific task. Beautiful. Okay, here's a little trick. For this, you'll want to have some cellophane tape, some ribbon. I'm going to choose this beautiful green that came in the kit. Trim a length that's a little wider than the piece itself times 2. So 2 lengths the same. I'm going to show you my little trick here. Ribbon does have a grain, so you'll notice that, like even on this longer piece, do you see how it flares outward? But if I do this way, it goes inward, kind of like a bob. That's what we want with these pieces when we do this little step. So I'm just going to check my grain, make sure that it wants to be folded in this direction. And then I'm going to just link these 2 pieces together like a chain link, and then give it a tug. And then I'm going to line up the center of that tugged knot, kind of just above the sentiment here, river life, because beaches be salty. I love it. Okay, so then I'm just going to center that knot and flip it over. And because I keep my tape in a dispenser, my one hand is occupied with securing the ribbon. I'm just going to flip this around here. Oh, that looks so good. And then my other hand can dispense the tape. And then I can center this on. If you happen to have some foam adhesive circles, you could use those to add this to the book. You could use just the bookbinding glue, your favorite adhesive. I'm going to go with the foam adhesive and just be pretty generous about it. I think this is going to get handled a lot, so I want to make sure that it's really secure. I love these particular adhesive circles for 2 reasons. Number 1, they have the little tab so you can just pull the backing off without losing your mind. And secondly, they aren't too thick. They're just, I love the thickness of them. It's just really nice. I'm just eyeballing this now. A little risky, I know. Oh, isn't that beautiful? I love this. Love this, love this so much. All right, so now we can decorate, and we have all kinds of stuff with which to do it, but I'm going to give you a couple of tips. Number one is that everything in the D pocket, and there's quite a bit of stuff in there, can be used, as I've been saying, at your discretion. So the goal here, I mean, my goal, it's not my only goal, but one of my main goals is to really end up with as little paper as possible when you're done. And I think in my last one, I only had a couple of thin strips left. Really, if anything, you're able to use a lot of this stuff with the other elements from the cut apart sheet that we prepared earlier. And I think you'll be really pleased with how this book can be thoroughly decorated by the time you're done. The other thing we have is these pre-cut photo mats. Now these are 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. So if you have a 4 by 6 photo, all you have to do then is place it right on the mat and you're good to go, right? So basically the routine I follow with decorating these books, and I know a lot of you just want to know exactly, precisely what I did with every last piece here, but it's really not that necessary. There's just kind of like a little method to the madness. So let's just do a page, for example. And I'm not following anything I've done before, but here I've got this sweet little strip. I know the height of my book pages is 7 inches. I'm going to go ahead and trim that to 7 inches. Great. Now I have a little border strip I can use. So this time I'm using my ATG adhesive applicator here, and I'll just anchor down something on this page here with this lovely little strip. Oh, this is kind of not a lot of action going on there. I could take one of these pre-cut photo mats and just center a page here. Now, one of the things though I want to tell you about is these little stabilizing binding strips can slide out, and we don't want that to happen, right? We want those to be secured. So how can we ensure that that happens? Well, let me show you an example of what you can do. I'm just going to trim off the ends of this tag. And then I'm going to come in with some of this really pretty satin ribbon, and I'm going to cut it at an angle here. And then at an angle that faces to make my little trapezoid shape. I'll fold that in half, go on the end here. I'll give that a little staple. All right, so now this is a 1 inch area. So I can just take back of this and put glue on the end of it. And I'm going to place this toward the bottom here. So I'm crossing over from the accordion into the binding strip area. And now I know that this will no longer slide out because the tag is serving two purposes. It's an embellishment and it holds my binding strip in place. How cool is that? Over here we've got these white, stark white pages. So what I might do here is I have this leftover print, and I need a 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 inch piece to nest onto here. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this to 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. Now I'll save this little scrap, and I will take that piece I trimmed, and I'll place it here. That really spruces it up a lot, doesn't it? And, oh, here, this could use some brightening. So I think I'll take a photo mat and I'll just place it on this teal page here. And maybe I'll take some of this gorgeous satin ribbon, and I'm going to cut 2 lengths of this. And I'll grab some tape. I don't like to do this with a wide satin. Just kind of wrap around the corner here a little bit. Bring the ends around to the back. And I can do the same on the opposite corner. Kind of like how a gift box has satin. And so there's no tape on the side that I'll be adding my picture to. All I have to do is slide it in there. In this case, I might want to add a little something here. I like that, so I will put some adhesive on the edge of this piece and make sure that it lands between the binding strip and the accordion piece. And you'll just go through the entire book like this, adding more where needed. So here I can again take another piece and trim that to 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, and use that to decorate the inside of the printed page. If you didn't want to use a white, printed page with a white side, you could just use another pair of plain cardstock. So much that can be done through all of this. I also love these little fishies. So there's a little silhouette around each fish. So all you need to do is take your detail scissors and cut around that perimeter. It only takes a few moments. And then I can maybe add him up here. I'm going to use a little bit of my bookbinding glue to make that happen. Makes him look like he's jumping. I love that. So much fun. And then we also have all these other sentiments. So my favorite childhood memory is having energy. Maybe we got a lot going on with this page already, so maybe I'll add that to this one. There's a lot of fun happening. Oh, right there would be really nice. We'll actually nest this onto a photo mat. It'll fit perfectly. And I can add that here. You can see that I'm not consulting my previous version of this decorated book. I'm just doing my own thing, and that's the fun part. You might want to add, how about a little journaling prompt here? Maybe I'll add it down at the bottom. Go with the flow, it says. So I hope I'm giving you some ideas as to how to bring this project to the finish line. You don't need to, fret about having every last little surface decorated, but it is nice to have this ready to go for your pictures. It'll really come together quickly. I'll add another brighten things up over here. If I wanted to, I could add this, but I'm going to be cautious about putting these wood frames in here because I don't want to bulk it up too much. So maybe I'll just add this to, an area like so. In fact, I'll do that. So what's the width of this piece right now? It's probably 4 1/4. So I'm going to trim this to 4 1/4 wide. And then I'll place that toward the top of this section here. And it'll be a good place for a photo. And then I can add my little sentiments the same width right below it. How cute is that? I love it. I love this collection. It's just so much fun. Here we could put this element kind of across the bottom and top, and then have a smaller photo mats there. Again, you can incorporate all these cute little charms and fishing swivels, however you wish. You have more fish to put in your pop-ups. That'll be adorable. And then your book will be done. Let's take a look at the finished one where I used the majority of the materials that came in the page kit to finish it. So I'll just give you a quick little tour. And you'll notice right away it's different from the one that I made with you, just following the same kind of principles though. So I've got some nested pieces here. I will admit that this was my prototype, so I still have some differences you might find between the two. Oh, I love how this turned out. So remember how I said that our cut-up parts adapt to smaller sizes. So this, I trimmed it out, matted it, and added my little pop-up fish along with a journaling prompt. Love that page, probably one of my favorites in the book. Life is good with another fish, so I could trim that easily to the 7 inches I needed for the height. Some photo mats that rest along the spine instead of just a sentiment or something. Here I had this nested along with my little relax. Oh, I matted this before I attached it. That looks sweet. Similar thing here. Look, I used the decorative piece to hold it all together there from the border strip. Go with the flow down over here. Very nice. So I had a big circle here, and then slightly smaller there. And this side came from this piece, so I sectioned it out into sections. Oh, and you can see that other strip used there, and it's ready for pictures. Again, don't go too crazy with layers and layers and layers of pictures. If you just matted kind of where the mats are and added pictures where, I mean, you're gonna fill this up to the point where it's full. You try to avoid having the book expand outward, okay? Make sure that when it's loaded with pictures, it's pretty much flat like this, where the covers are in parallel lines, rather than going out in the shape of a V, because you're going to put a lot of pressure on the book. I mean, a stitch book is definitely the way to go for a really sturdy, packed book. You want to have spacers and things like that. So for this, just, know the limit, right? It has one. Then I again want to mention what happens. So at Club Scrap, every month we release a themed kit. We've been doing this for almost 25 years now. And what you were looking at was a release called Riverbend. And what we try to do is not only design 8 pages that match and coordinate with every kit that we release. So if you get a page kit, you get instructions that help you create 8 pages out of that kit. But we also like to have all kinds of projects you can make instead of pages. And using that same kit template, you just substitute one for one and you can make anything. So I took our release for the month of October called Chocolate, and I made this book following the exact same instructions. Now let me show you, where are my instructions here? So as I was working and making this, I went ahead and made the notes of the substitutions I had selected for my book. So instead of using dark green, I used 2 sheets of red. Instead of using light green, I used a sheet of brown, and so on. So here is that chocolate book, and I think this would be really fun for like a trip to Europe, which I actually just got back from a trip. And, I took a lot of food pictures, a lot of dessert pictures, and I think this would be a super fun book for something like that. It also would be, it kind of has a little bit of a romantic, Parisian feel. So maybe it could be a fun book for an engagement party, or a book that you have people sign, or if you have pictures of all your guests. It just has a lot of neat potential here. And I'm really proud of how that book turned out as well. So we always try to make sure you have room for journaling and your memories and thoughts too, which those little pockets, aren't those adorable? We even have these little wooden picks. They're about this long, and for the front cover, I just took my serrated scissors and cut it to be a little bit shorter so it wouldn't interfere with anything. But I thought those little pockets were adorable. Those too were embellishments in the kit. It also comes with ribbon and everything else you could possibly want. So that's really a fun version of this book called the Accordion Hinge album. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this project and learning how to make this unique and easy book structure. Again, if you master the skill of using a craft knife, and maybe a little measuring too, that always helps, you will be able to make that beautiful spine and crank out these books, especially in time for the holidays. If you've got your kids have some teachers, or maybe you have a friend or someone hosting a holiday party that you could walk in and give this to them as a gift, I think it would be treasured beyond words. So yeah, this is a fun project. We have many, many projects you can make, and adapting, as I mentioned, our page kits. And the cool part though about being a member of our club here at Club Scrap is that you save quite a bit of money. So if you are a member, your page kits are $8 less. So that brings them down to $24.95, at least for right now. They're $24.95, and that includes everything you saw, like the papers and the ribbons and embellishments and cut aparts, plus the instructions and a workshop video every month to help you transform the kit into pages, 8 12 by 12 embellished pages without any waste, using our little organizational system here with our accordion pocket file. So it's a lot of fun to be a member of the club, and you don't have to be though. I know that sometimes you're just like, no, I'd rather pay a little more and not be committed. And I understand that completely. So anyone can shop, it's just that members save. And another important point is you are permitted to skip and cancel at any time. It's my job to earn your loyalty here at Club Scrap, so I'm not going to force you into a long-term commitment. I understand sometimes it's hard to think, is that always going to work? Because I don't know about that one theme, or I don't know about that other theme. What we tend to find is that our members typically find homes for all of their life events on our pages quite easily. Our goal is always to design for any reason, any season, and I think it's always chocolate season. That's actually the current month right now, but soon we will be shifting over to our November theme for shipping. So if you join today, you'd probably get the November kit as your first one. You could always add that chocolate kit to your membership shipment as well. That's the cool part. You can shop a month long and bundle it all into one box, and it'll all ship together in one box, which is a great savings on shipping as well. Again, Brian and Carol, thank you so much for continually going through the work of hosting these amazing events. And thank you all for supporting them and showing up and supporting the vendors. It just means the world to us, and we really appreciate you being out there and being spongy and teachable and wanting to learn new things. So again, I'm Tricia Morris from Club Scrap. Thanks for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you in another workshop soon.